Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Smodcastle. I'm Kevin Smith. You all know what we're here for tonight. It's Being Buscemi, ladies and gentlemen, an Eve with Steve. We're here to celebrate an icon, get into his head and heart, find out what made him tick in some of the biggest movies that we've all loved him in. It's a benefit, ladies and gentlemen. We're live streaming here from Smodcastle in Leonardo, New Jersey, mere steps from Quick Stop, where we just finished shooting Clerks 3. So this is the first event that we've been able to hold in the space since we wrapped up Clerks 3. One person enjoyed that. Thank you so much. That is the one person who will be in the theater when we open. Thank you. The rest of you will be watching on fucking Netflix or something. It's a benefit tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday night. Hopefully, if you're at home watching, you're kicked back, you got yourself a drink, a joint, you're feeling charitable and generous because, my God, we're raising money tonight for one of the greatest causes on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to put this on Front Street. Who doesn't want to fuck a firefighter? Everyone loves fucking firefighters, man. They run into buildings for us. The buildings are on fire. They bring out cats, babies, other humans, and shit like that. They're some of the best people you'll ever encounter in this world. When talk to any kid, even now in this day and age, when they're children, what do they say they want to be? Well, they say firemen, but firefighters is a different age at this point. Tonight, we're raising money for the Friends of Firefighters, an organization that is about to celebrate its 20th anniversary. Sadly, its anniversary is in the wake of September 11th. But out of that horror came something wonderful and positive, and something very, very necessary. And the good folks at Friends of Firefighters have been doing this now for 2 decades. Tonight, we're raising money for them. So open up your hearts, open up your wallets. We're going to update you all night long how much money has come in, who the big donors are throughout the evening. Ernie O'Donnell will jump out here. Smodcastle keeper himself, Ernie O'Donnell, will update us with the figures in between each chapter. We got 12 chapters to go down, ladies and gentlemen, 12 chapters of a career. Sometimes there's just one movie in that chapter. Sometimes there's a couple movies in that chapter. But all those chapters are filled with the movies and TV shows that you've always wanted to know what our guest would like to say something about. And he's going to say it tonight. We'll spend a few minutes on each chapter. Then when the chapter's over, we'll get an update on how much we've made. So I'm just warning you in advance. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be an entertaining show. But we are going to be asking for money all the time. So a free show, the only cost is you're going to have to hear it again and again and again. And again, it's for a good cause. We're going to find out about that cause from the mouth of the man himself, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not wait any longer. Without further ado, the man who brings more honor to Smodcastle than it possibly deserves. Tony Blundetto comes back to Jersey, ladies and gentlemen. He ain't Mr. Purple. He ain't anything but Mr. Pink, man. Welcome to our stage, the one, the only, the legend, the icon, the great Steve Buscemi, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever been to Leonardo, New Jersey?
I have never been to Leonardo, New Jersey, and Kevin was nice enough to take the hit for starting late, but it's because it took me 2 hours to get from 8th Street to the tunnel. That's even before the tunnel. So,
on a Friday night, I'm shocked.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, 8 o'clock on a Friday night. Do we have to leave at 2 in the afternoon? I think that's what I should have done.
You have so much guilt over this. I was like, don't worry.
I feel so bad.
Our crowd, they're stoners. They don't even know what time it is.
I pulled up front and I see people outside, and I panicked and I walked down the block.
There was a question. I
couldn't face you. I'm sorry. I couldn't face you.
There was a question backstage. They're like, Steve's here, but he's walking down the block. And I was like, maybe he missed the theater. And they were like, how could he miss the theater? But we collected him, and he's here. And we're going to go down 12 chapters of his career. But before we do that, we just want to first talk about why we're here. The organization we're raising money for tonight with being Buscemi and Eve with Steve is Friends of Firefighters. This is very close to your heart.
Yes, it's an organization that was started by Nancy Carbone. She's here somewhere. I just need
Nance,
to know.
where are you?
Okay.
Nance,
all right, you're back there. All right.
Come join us, Nance.
Just so we know.
Yeah, come on up. Everyone give it up for Nancy Carbone.
I can lose the mask, right?
You could totally lose the mask.
You could take your mask off.
Can I?
Just for now.
Just for now?
Tell them about Friends of Firefighters.
You tell them about,
the back of the room. You're looking at the back of the room to tell them.
I see that. I see the back of the room. And I actually came from the back of the room, so I know where to look.
Well done.
Friends of Firefighters started right after 9/11. And I think after the day of 9/11, everybody was just stunned. And I think the first thing people wanted to do was help in some way. And a lot of people did. They helped. I'm that person that never went home. They probably wanted me to at some point because I was in a lot of firehouse kitchens, just asking what they needed. And initially it was boots, bunting for the firehouses, socks, just the tangible things that they needed to get the job done. But as time went on and we got closer and there was a trust between me and the firehouses, they started to ask for counseling outside of the fire department. I'm not a counselor, but I'm a mom, so moms get it done. There are moms in the audience, right? You get it done. People ask you to do something, you get it done, right? These are first responders. First responders ask for something, you make it happen. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was my first curse. And it was mild, right?
It was very mild.
It was mild. Wait. So
you can get away with saying hell in the land of the Jersey Devils. It's very, very easy.
I was honored to be asked in December of 2001 to start a counseling center for firefighters that was apart from the fire department so that there would be confidentiality. It wouldn't end up in their records. And I never expected it to last 20 years. And now it will last past my lifetime because the job that they do is so dangerous and the families are affected. So we are helping firefighters that are active, firefighters that are retired, and their families. We have counseling, but we also have other services that have developed over the years to bring in those that are a little bit gun shy and don't want to sit down. That's okay. They don't have to sit with a counselor. We've got acupuncture and financial assistance. Basically, we're trying to take those worries off of them because the jobs that they do bring them from sitting on a couch in a kitchen to in the middle of an inferno, grabbing a baby. And if you think about that for a moment, what is your most stressful moment? What, catching a bus, right? I mean, our stresses are so far removed from what their stressors are. And they don't forget the fires where they lost people. They don't forget the smells, the sounds. And 9/11, it all came together. And those who were at 9/11 and survived, a lot of them are getting sick and cancer is through the roof. And so we're there to help those families. But since 9/11, there have been a lot of fatalities also. So firefighters have been killed doing their jobs. The stress that it puts on the family is I don't even know how to express that because we talk with the families and it's a dangerous, dangerous job. So what we do, we made them a home. We are in an old firehouse in Brooklyn. Over 400 firefighters came to rebuild the old firehouse. It was really a shitty place when we got it, right? It was
Second curse.
A little stronger. I'm not at the F
building
yet.
up to it, yeah.
Building up. I don't know what the crescendo will be, but it will be strong. The firehouse was just shit, and it was a metal fabrication. They changed it over the years. It's a 140-year-old building. 400 firefighters came to turn it back into a firehouse. To me, that validates our work. So what I want to tell you is that this need for not just counseling, it's bigger than that. It's a home. It's a sanctuary. It's a place for them to go. When COVID hit, we were already online, so we just transferred everybody. Nobody lost one session during COVID, and we helped a lot of families through that. But now that we're back at the firehouse, the needs are even greater and more firefighters are coming. In the past year, we've hired two more counselors, We've had almost 50 firefighters come forward to volunteer, and now we're in the midst of hiring another counselor. So what does that tell everybody? That there's a need, right? The people are coming, firefighters are coming, and when you call 911 anywhere in the country, you know somebody's coming. And our firefighters in New York City are there within a minute, and it takes its toll. So yes, they are brave. They're totally brave and strong. And they also walk away from a fatality. They also walk away from a job that went south, and it carries with them for years. And it's not just about 9/11, it's about the dangers of the job. So we've made a home for them. I want to just give a moment to say, Steve Buscemi, yes, he's a celebrity. Yes, he's a wonderful guy, but he was also a firefighter. So he understands. He was a New York City firefighter that understands what that firefighter takes home with them and how dangerous the job is.
And also the 9/11 related cancers that they're, for a lot of these guys and their families, 9/11 has never stopped. The cancers showed up after 5 years. We thought it would be 20 or 25 years, 5 years. And we're losing guys. We're losing firefighters, and and a lot of them are sick. So this could just be the tip of the iceberg. So that adds a whole new level of stress. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Is this the hook? This is
the hook.
There's not the hook before the hook. Before she goes, hold on, Nance. I always ask Nance, hey, give it to me in a sentence that I can say to the crowd. And you said it backstage so beautifully and eloquently.
And you're going to ask me to repeat something that I have no fucking
Come
idea.
on! It was only a glass of wine, for God's sakes.
It was a half glass.
Half a glass.
And I actually gave it to my daughter, so I had a little bit of it. You know what it is? I
think Heroes is in it.
No, Heroes. I know. I don't use the word hero because they use that for baseball players.
Copy. Ooh, listen to you.
And this is different than hero because these are the people that we depend upon. They have our backs, right? Everybody here knows that. What happens when they need help? Is it our obligation to help them? I believe it is. So I've been in there. I thought it was going to be like a 2-year thing, and then they'd say, all right, we're sick of you, go on. They may still be sick of me, but they love Friends of Firefighters. And I'm not going away because the need is there. That's not what I said to you, but I don't remember what I
think it's something like, it might be, and correct me if I'm wrong, like these are the people who rescue us. Why can't we help rescue them?
And why couldn't you just say that, Kevin?
I was going to let you do it, but it was eloquently put. It was really beautiful.
I will tell you now that I never remember what I said, and people say it again for the camera. No, I can't. But what I can say is that what I'm talking about is real, and to get people like Kevin Smith and Steve Buscemi on board and Gary Sinise on board, they understand that this is a need that's real. And so I appreciate everybody coming here. I've never been here before. It's pretty cool. It's nice. And
you were all sorts of down on Jersey and shit. She's all New York and whatnot. So she was throwing a lot of shade. But now that you're here, it's pretty nice, right? Now you better say nice shit in front of these people.
Some of them are from New York.
Fair enough.
And I do it because I know it gets under your skin. But I think there's parts of Jersey that are gorgeous. The other parts I have to drive through to get to the good parts. So come on. You can't blame me.
You just lost a bunch of donations.
But please, send in that money.
Yeah, really, heavens. Give it up for Nancy, everybody. There's the hook. Folks watching at home, the link is in the YouTube description. Click on it. Start donating. Before we even jump into the 12 chapters, I figure this is the internet. The internet's watching, and we want the internet's money. And what the internet always wants is news about comic books and stuff. Now, you don't have any obvious comic book movies in your career, but I read something online that I wanted to see if it was true or not, because it's a story I haven't seen told anywhere, if it's true. And if it is, the internet will go fucking crazy. We might even trend on Twitter. So even if it's wrong, just fucking lie, man. This is going to be amazing. So I saw on the internet that after Batman and Robin, the Warner Brothers movie Batman and Robin, they were intending to make a movie called Batman Unchained, and that the Scarecrow was going to be the villain, and that they were talking to you to play the villain. Is that true?
Oh, I can't lie. No, they never talked to me. Maybe they thought about me, but
Right.
it never, I don't remember.
Have they ever come after you for any comic book movies?
No. I mean, I consider Ghost World a comic book.
Truly, absolutely. It's a comic book movie. Well put.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you saved my ass. Otherwise, the internet right now is he did one, you fucking idiot. All right, man. Here we go. Chapter 1. We're going down to man's career. Remember, folks, the link is in the YouTube description. Give thick and fast and hearty. We'll get updates between each chapters. Before we even get into the acting career, where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Why acting? Did anyone act in the family? Was there any creative influence, or were you the first, like the astronaut?
My grandfather on my dad's side, he was a singing waiter in Coney Island. I never met him, but I used to hear stories that he sang with Jimmy Durante, like he was also, and so that was my only. Oh, but wait a minute, my mom's dad, he was a projectionist, so. Does that count?
Yeah, it's a finger in, a toe in.
In a movie theater.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did have my dad's best friend growing up was this guy named Peter Miller, and we called him Uncle Pete. Not a blood relative, but he was an actor. He grew up in East New York, went to the neighborhood playhouse, became an actor, and he was in like these movies. He was in Robert Altman's first film, The Delinquents. He was in Blackboard Jungle. He played, I don't know if you remember the kid that tries to rape the school teacher and gets beat up by Glenn Ford. That was my Uncle Pete. He was in Crime in the Streets. It's like a Don Siegel early movie, in Cassavetes, I think it was his first film.
Right.
He had a little part in Rebel Without a Cause, but he was cut out, but he knew Nicholas Ray. So he was my other, but he lived in California. We lived in Brooklyn.
Right.
And I remember like one of the first times talking to him on the phone, I was just so nervous. I didn't know what to say to him. And I said, do you know the Three Stooges? I thought he lives in Hollywood. They must all know each other, And, but that was my main, influence as a kid wanting to be an actor was watching.
Don't
TV.
leave us hanging. Did he know the Three Stooges?
No. He was very gracious about it. He says, well, no, I never met them, but, he probably named somebody else who I didn't know, but that was my first taste. But I just grew up, just watching TV, anything from the Three Stooges to Gilligan's Island to old movies like the 4 o'clock movie, and they would show some pretty intense movies, and then like the Bowery Boys, like comedies like that, and Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello. I loved comedy, and that was my dream, was to just somehow get into, like being on a TV show, like a sitcom. And so for a while I tried stand-up comedy because I thought that was the way you get discovered, to be on a sitcom.
Do you remember any of your material?
I'm just going to say no. I'm not going to grudge up any of that material. I didn't have, what it was? I didn't really have a style. Like, I used to sit and watch Jerry Seinfeld and Gilbert Gottfried and, like all these great people that came through, and all the ones that I really admired had their own voice. Mm-hmm. And myself and a lot of other comedians who were, much better than me, but we all were sort of borrowing from this one, influence from that one, but I could never find my own thing, and so I eventually stopped doing it because I just realized that I loved acting more. I needed to act with somebody, and that's where I feel like I found my voice, was through acting. Did you start in high school acting or no? Only until my senior year. I was pretty much a jock in junior high and high school. I played soccer. Hopefully that wasn't an insulting fucking double take, but
When you say, I mean, it's one thing to be like, I played sports, but like to term yourself as a jock, what did you do?
I played.
Did you beat up nerds? That's what a jock is to me.
No. I played soccer. I was on the wrestling team, and I did track for like a few years. Eventually, I gave up track, and I just really didn't just concentrated on
Soccer and track.
wrestling.
I could totally see, but
Yeah.
wrestling?
Wrestling, yeah.
Are you a good
loved it.
grappler?
I was not bad. I kind of held my own. Yeah, and I had a secret move.
Were you a better wrestler than a comedian?
Yes.
What was your secret move?
My secret move for any wrestlers out there was the reverse cradle. But you could only do it once because then they know it's coming and it's easy to avoid. But if they don't know it's coming, you can surprise them and you can beat really good guys, because you could either pin them or, like get like 3 points ahead.
It's a third act of the movie kind of move, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, he did it. All right, so you're in New York, so it's easy to audition for films and TV shows?
No, I had no idea how to be an actor. When I moved into the city, I was, from Long Island. So born in Brooklyn, moved to Long Island when I was 8.
Long Island is the New Jersey of New York.
Yes, there you go. I feel you. I feel all of you. So I moved into, Avenue A in East Village in 1978. And was taking acting classes and trying to do stand-up and then working odd jobs. And I didn't know how to audition. I didn't know. That was why I thought, well, at least the comedy, people there's a built-in audience.
Right.
You can get on at a decent time slot. But otherwise, I just didn't know what I was doing. And I kind of fell in with the group in the East Village. At that time, people like Rockets Red Glare, Mark Boone Jr., who I did a lot of work with, Jim Jarmusch was around, and so people were making films, people were making music, art, and it was just a really like explosive time. It was like like Paris in the 20s. Like that's what the East Village was in the late 70s and 80s, and there I was in the middle of it. It took me a few years to sort of get my bearings, but I finally started doing some performance pieces and plays and sketches, and when I was doing that, I never really even thought about getting an agent. We were just worried about like getting the next show. Like we would get the gig, and then we'd have to write a show, and then we'd have to perform, and then from that was how I sort of that's where Jarmusch saw me, and people like Eric Mitchell. Filmmakers, Eric Mitchell, Liza Bear, and people like that. And then I was doing some work at Folk City. they used to have a theater night at Folk City, this folk club in the village. And a good friend of mine, Kathy Kinney, we were on the same bill, and her friend Bill Sherwood came, and because he was looking to cast his movie. His first and only movie, Parting Glances. And it was because he saw me perform, he asked me to audition. And that was like one of the earliest auditions that I had. And he said to me, your audition was terrible. I was really bad.
Confidence building.
He said, I know. He said, but if I hadn't seen you on stage, I don't think I would have cast you. So it made me realize, auditioning is such a different thing from, actually performing on stage. You really have to, I think I went in and I was kind of nervous but tried to play it down. And I just came across as like,
but he had seen you.
Rude.
He knew your
but he saw me on
work.
Stage. So yeah.
That leads us into chapter 1 because the first movie is Parting Glances, 1986. Bill Sherwood directs, you play Nick. This is the first big acting gig. You'd done a few minor roles prior to that?
I had done, so Eric Mitchell had his movie The Way It Is. Liza Bear did a movie called The Force of Circumstance, but they hadn't even been released.
Oh my God.
So,
total indie film. They made the flicks and waiting to go.
They made it. And so Parting Glances, that was a very big deal. And
this is a movie, for those that don't know, it takes place in the gay community, has big AIDS storyline, HIV storyline, which was insanely revolutionary in 1986.
Yeah, I played a character who was a rock musician who had AIDS, and the main story is about a gay couple living on the Upper West Side, and One of them is going to go to Africa to work for the World Health Organization. And it's just a relationship film.
Yeah.
And it's, and the characters just happen to be gay. There was no coming out story or feeling like I'm hiding it was just, these characters are gay and this is their story. And I had just a wonderful part. And, being a low budget film, we would shoot for like 2 weeks, stop. He'd use that footage to show it to people, and then he'd get some money.
Oh, get out of here, really?
It was done over a period of like 6 or 7 months, in these like just a 2-week period here, a 2-week period there. Yeah.
And you mentioned Bill, this was Bill Sherwood's
So Bill
only
Sherwood,
movie.
he wrote it, he directed it, and then he himself died of AIDS, only a couple of years after the film was released.
After the film was out.
Yeah.
He never got to make another film.
He never got to make another film.
Heartbreaking. Yeah. What do you remember about him as a director?
He was very funny, he would get, he'd get so annoyed with me and he'd say things like, he'd get very specific on, now this line you want to be there. And now on this line, I'd like you to move over there. And then when you do this line, so I would do everything he said. And the next take, he'd say, Jesus Christ, Steve, show some spontaneity. I'm trying to do what you told me. But it was a great lesson. It was like, okay, you have to do both. You have to kind of be able to follow good direction, be very specific, but not lose the life out of it, And
bring something to it.
Bring something else to it that is surprising.
When did the movie go places like festivals and stuff like that?
I think it did go to, I can't remember what Sundance was called before.
The American U.S. Film
Sundance.
Festival.
It was, so it went there, but I didn't go.
Where did it open in Manhattan?
It was at a theater on the Upper West Side. I can't remember the name, but I think it also played in the Village,
Right.
I think at the Waverly. So in 2 theaters. And back then, if you made an independent film, if it punched through and got halfway decent reviews, it played for months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you recognized from that movie? Like people started being like, hey, I saw you in a movie.
A little bit. I mean, not, there's like not a ton of people saw it, but it was, I remember the first, like when the movie was released and there was a review in the paper, in the Times, and an agent from ICM read the review. I'm not even sure if he saw the movie. He read the review and he calls me up and he said, "You want to come in?" And, and I'll, and I was so nervous about it that I totally blew, like the day I was supposed to meet him, I kind of blew him off. I was out all night and I just, I was so nervous and anxious. And I
such a jock move, dude.
I know. Luckily, I called him and I apologized and he saw me again and he took me on for a little while. And it didn't work out because I think I was with a big agency too soon.
Right.
But anyway, that got the ball rolling. I mean, that, I was able to then meet casting people and then directors and so that movie definitely got me in the door.
There it is, Chapter 1. Give it up for Chapter 1, folks. We finish chapter. We find out how we're doing for our fundraising for the Friends of Firefighters, and we ask Smodcastle keeper Ernie O'Donnell come out and give us an update. Ernie, come on out and tell us how much money we made. Give it up for Ernie, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody. So as of the show started, that's even before you got into it, Steve, we were at 3136. Donated, the top 5 was Lawrence at 400, LB at 250, Frank at 200, and Sarah M. Driver at 200, and Jennifer at 150.
Oh, hey, I know Sarah Driver. Did you say Sarah Driver?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Sarah M. Driver.
Yes.
Right on.
Thank you, Sarah.
You got it.
There it is.
See
Give
you
it
in a
up
bit.
for Ernie, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be back.
Sarah Driver is one of the filmmakers in the East Village. She's partners with Jim Jarmusch, and I worked in his on her early feature Sleepwalk, and Jim was the cinematographer on that.
He shot Sleepwalk?
He shot Sleepwalk, and Nan Golden was the still photographer. Which is, I don't know if you know Nan Golden. She's a world-renowned photographer, and she was the still photographer on that film.
This is like an indie film fan's wet dream. Yes. Like all these rock star names that you're throwing out. Those donations are nice, kids, but let's jack them up. Remember, Friends of Firefighters. Friends of Firefighters, ladies and gentlemen. Chapter 2. We're going to do 2 movies in one bite because they both happened in 1989. Just the aforementioned Jim Jarmusch makes Mystery Train, puts you in it, in a scene with Joe Strummer, the aforementioned Rocket's Red Glare.
Yes.
You knew Jim from The Village at that point.
We knew each other from, so Boone and I would do these shows with Rockets. He was a comedian and he was in, a lot of Jim's films, but he had this cabaret called Rocket's Red Glare's Taxi Cabaret. And it was a midnight show and he'd bounce around, different venues in the East Village, but we mostly did it at Club 57, which was an amazing club where a lot of great people came out of that. And so Jim would just see us, and we were also, proud when Jim's film Stranger Than Paradise sort of like punched through, and not that it was not a mainstream film in any way, but it was the first taste of us, hey, people are like talking about this film, and people are
NYU film school kid, broke
people
through.
Are seeing it, and it was just so inspiring, I think, to all of us who were, who were doing our own work, to see that, and Jim did it in such an uncompromising way. He only makes films that he wants to make, and he's made a career out of it, and he still continues to inspire me.
So he does Stranger Than Paradise, he does Down by Law, and then he does Mystery Train.
Yeah.
Do you remember shooting the movie? It was shot in Memphis. It takes place in Memphis, I assume.
And I was so excited to work with Joe Strummer because I was a big fan of The Clash. And also Ricky Aviles, he was the other member, and I used to see him. He was a comedian. I used to see him perform in Washington Square Park when I first moved to the city, and I would just hang out in that park and just watch, jugglers. And Philip Petit used to put up a rope in between 2 trees and just do an act. I'm like, Jesus, this is it's all free, free shows in Washington Square Park. And Ricky was like one of the greats. So I was excited to work with both of them. Rockets was in it. And we rehearsed it for, I think, 2 weeks. And that's the thing about Jim. It's he really values rehearsal time, and then sometimes he'll do improvs within the rehearsals, and even brought in Elizabeth Bracco, who plays my sister in the film. We didn't even have a scene together, but he would just have us improvise as brother and sister and just see what that brought up. And it was great for us as actors. We shot it in Memphis. Oh, Screaming Jay Hawkins is in it, and Sankey Lee. And I remember doing a scene with Screaming Jay Hawkins. The 3 of us, me, Joe, and Rick, were out all night drinking, and we get into trouble, and we try to check into this hotel. And Screaming Jay Hawkins of I Put a Spell on You fame is the night clerk, along with Sankey Lee. And we come in, and in the scene, I drop a bottle of liquor, and it crashes on the ground. And Screaming Jay looks at me, and his line was, "Boy, you got a curse on you as sure as the day is long," something like that. But instead he went, "Boy, you got a spell on you." Yeah. And I went, Screaming Jay Hawkins put a spell on me. I was so happy. I think
I've arrived.
I know. It was amazing. Yeah, it was great fun to work on that film.
Same year is the first time you get to work with a director that nobody's ever heard of, Martin Scorsese. Yeah. You do his segment of New York Stories that had Roseanne Arquette in it and Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte, yeah.
The artist segment. Was it Artist Life or something like that?
It's funny. I felt like I had worked with, I'm going to call him Marty.
Do it.
I worked with Marty. No, I had auditioned for The Last Temptation of Christ for like 3 times. He kept bringing me back. And
oh my God, you were going to be one of the New York voices in Jerusalem?
Yes, for maybe this apostle or that apostle. But he really already had the apostles cast from a few years before. He was going to do the movie with Aidan Quinn, and he had all the apostles cast. The movie fell through. Now he's doing it with Willem. But now he's, I guess maybe he wasn't sure if they were all available. I guess they were, and I couldn't get in there. But he remembered me. And then when he did New York Stories, there was a section in it that where Nick Nolte and Rosanna Arquette go to a club and they see a performance artist who's interested in Rosanna or dating or something, and they wanted somebody like Eric Bogosian, you know, somebody who like really did their own stuff. And I think Ellen Lewis, the casting director, said, "Do you have anything that we could send to him?" And so it was like part of a monologue I used to do in one of the shows that I did with Boone. And I just wrote that up and sent it in. And so they used me and my material in it. And it was great.
How strange, like to go to eventually watch it's short, but a Martin Scorsese movie and know that you wrote some of it as well.
Well, my part of it. Yeah.
That's enough. That's credit. What is he like as a director? I mean, you've worked with him many times since then, but what?
I love him because he's so passionate about what he does, and he really is a Renaissance man. I mean, of course, he knows everything about film, every actor, every director, but he's that way about history, about art, about music, and so it's just so much fun just talking to him about anything, you know, and especially when we were doing Boardwalk Empire. You know, that's when I really got to, you know, sit in a room with him and talk about prohibition and gangsters and this one and that one, and then movie references. And he's so generous. Like he'll you know, name an actress and he sees that I don't know who that is, and then he'll send me like all these movies of, you know, like this. He's just amazing. Yeah, I love him.
Sidebar Martin Scorsese question.
Yes.
And this comes from Josh Roush, our cameraman. In The Irishman, you have a cameo.
Oh, that's right. No, not in The Irishman. In The Wolf of Wall Street.
Sorry.
I was going to say, was I in The Irishman? Am I really forgetting things I'm doing?
Wolf of Wall Street. What was it shot just for the movie? We had not an argument, but we were debating whether it was shot for the movie or something that people hadn't seen that he just grabbed.
No, this was, remember the TV show, The Equalizer?
Yes.
Yeah,
you were on it?
I was on The Equalizer. I'm in an episode. It's me and John Goodman. We're in the same episode. We didn't have any scenes together. But I played like a sleazy clerk in a antique shop, and I'm trying to hustle the exterminator. No, what was his name? Equalizer guy. Sorry, I'm a little tired. And he kind of bends my thumb back to get information out of me. And I don't know who remembered that I did this.
Right.
It may have been Terry Winter who wrote the screenplay, because we were all doing Boardwalk Empire. So Terry wrote the screenplay for Wolf of Wall Street, and Marty did it. And one of them remembered that I was in this, that I was in that show, and they found it and they used it as a clip in the movie. I think Rob Reiner's character is watching it on TV.
So awesome. That is chapter 2, kids. Give it up for chapter 2. Ernie, you got an update?
The only update you need to know is somebody just donated $1,000. Just dropped it. Yeah. Dropped it like it's hot.
That's awesome. Yeah. Who is that person? Do we know?
No, they didn't give us a name, but we are over $7,000 that fast.
Very sweet, kids. Well done. Well done. Thank you. Okay, we go to chapter 3. This is 1990, 1991, but it's the same directors and it's guys that you know very well. 1990, you do Miller's Crossing. You play Mink. Yeah. 1991, you do Chet in Barton Fink. This is your first exposure to the Coen Brothers, Miller's Crossing?
Miller's Crossing I auditioned for, and I just remember...
Really? Even at like that stage in your career?
Yeah, but I hadn't done a lot. I'm not sure if they had seen me in anything, but I was brought in, and I read for the part of Mink, and the part of Mink is it's like 5 pages long, and it's mostly Mink talking, Right. So I just figured this guy must be a fast talker. And I had good training at it because I was, part of the plays that I used to do in the East Village. I worked with this playwright director, John Jezerin, and his stuff was very surreal, a lot of non sequiturs, and very fast paced. So you really had to be on your game. And so this was like, oh, it's linear and it makes sense. I think I can memorize this almost. But I just talked really fast, and the two of them just were laughing. They would just, so the more they laughed, I think the faster I talked and did it. And then I went away, and then they called me back. It was like a month later because they were auditioning other people, and they had me do it again. And then Ethan afterwards, and he was laughing. He goes, "Well, you still say it the fastest." And they hired me, and then since then they just,
What is it like to work with two directors at once?
It didn't.
Well, I mean,
I
one
know what you
produces,
mean.
one directs, but they're two
Well, no,
minds.
they both direct.
That's the thing. It's like they listed separate, but all I've ever heard is they co-direct.
Yeah, but I think now Ethan is taking credit as a director as well, but it was always that way. They were always together, and always, sort of giving the same direction from the both of them. There was never like a conflicting thing or one of them pulling me aside and
being like, "Don't listen to that asshole."
And they're so low key. They're so chill. That's the thing that is funny because some of their movies are, so crazy, but they're not. They're just, and they laugh. Sometimes you hear them laughing behind the camera during a take, and it's a little distracting, but it makes you feel good.
It just makes me happy to know they laugh. They seem guys that make comedies but are very cerebral about it. It's nice
you
to know
hear
they
them.
laugh.
Like you hear this, it's like, oh, good, they like it.
What do you remember about doing Barton Fink playing Chet?
Well, that was great. We shot that in LA at the Wiltern Theater. If anybody knows that theater, we shot it in the lobby.
That was the hotel?
Yes, we shot it. Well, not the hotel, but the hotel lobby. The hotel itself, I guess, was a set. It was just, just playing that character and just coming. I just loved the entrance, like coming up like from the depths, shining shoes. It was just, It was so memorable and influential for me that there was a scene in Clerks that when we shot the movie Clerks years ago, plug for myself. Please.
My friend Vincent Pereira, who worked over at the store with me, at one point the character Randall goes to another video store and he meets the ideal video store clerk, and he was named Chet, and he gave the same performance that you gave. But the camera crapped out that night, so we couldn't capture it and stuff. Vinny also helped me come up with the list tonight. Vinny and Josh were very helpful in terms of like where to go with the career. And so far, I think we've gone to good places. All right, I'm going to jump to chapter 4. That was chapter 3. Give it up for chapter 3, kids. Chapter 4 stands alone. Reservoir Dogs, 1992. You play Mr. Pink, man. Who found who? Did you find Quentin or Quentin find you?
No, it was, that came through my agent at the time, Nancy Green. She sent me the script. I read it. I loved it. She said, "Do you want to talk to the director?" I said, "Absolutely. The writer, he's going to direct it." And when I was, in my mind, it was written by like an ex-convict, I swear to God. Eddie Bunker, who actually ended up playing Mr. Blue in the film, is an or was an ex-convict. And that's who I thought I'd be talking to a guy like that,
Right.
Like he wrote the movie Straight Time. And so that's, and then to hear Quentin's voice and this like, kind of like, "Hey man, how you doing? Thanks a lot for reading my script. Thanks a bunch." I'm like, I think I even asked him, did you write this? He goes, yeah, man. It's like, okay. And he had such enthusiasm, and I wanted to do it even more. But I had to audition. They wanted me to put myself on tape. Back then, it was like, and we had like these big like,
fat
stupid
VHS
cameras,
recorder,
and
wasn't like a phone where you're like, "I'm doing a self-tape."
Right. And I tried to put myself on tape, and it was just awful. And I don't even think I sent it. And I just thought, well, I guess I'll have to let this one go. They were casting in LA, and Harvey Keitel was already, a part of the movie, and he was a producer too. And he insisted that they come to New York to see New York actors. Now, I didn't know Harvey at all. I think he wanted to get some of his New York friends in there too, But because they came to New York, then I was able to go on the audition. And actually, I was filming In the Soup at the time. I know we're going to talk about that, but I was filming In the Soup, and Seymour Cassell and I went in and we auditioned together.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah. And then they called me back, and then I went and
Seymour Cassell auditioned for Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah. And then I went back for like a callback, and in front of me was Michael Imperioli. And I got nervous. I was like, fuck, he's here. God damn it. And I auditioned, didn't hear anything. I was invited to the Sundance Lab where they were workshopping Reservoir Dogs before it became a film.
And for those that don't know what that is, so the idea is Sundance picks some filmmakers and based on scripts and whatnot, bring them up to a Sundance, the lab, not the festival itself. Right. And they bring together like seasoned
mentors.
filmmakers.
Yeah,
mentors.
They have like directors like Ulu Grossbard, and they had a lot of, and it's great because it's like being at a festival with nobody else around. It's just you and these filmmakers and these other people who are trying to be filmmakers. And so I was invited to do the workshop, but the condition was that they were not going to tell me if I had the part. You just have to decide to, And I said, fine. I said, at least I'll get to work with him. Even if I'm not in the movie, at least I'll get to do this.
Right.
And we worked together for like a day, and then we were both in the men's room. And Quentin turns to me and he says, "Oh, by the way, you got the part of Mr. Pink." And I'm like, "Really?" oh, thanks. Yeah, it was so weird.
Told you got the part while you're holding the part. Who knew that Quentin was that kind of bathroom guy? Guy that gives you the good news right in the shitter. What do you remember about shooting the movie?
Well, again, Quentin had us rehearse for 2 weeks, just the actors like in a room and just reading it for a while and talking about it. And then we did like an improv rehearsal of us robbing the jewelry store.
Something we never see in the movie.
No, it's not in the movie, but he wanted us to feel that, to and it was great because then by the time we got on set, we just kind of, we were like a tight group, I remember especially hanging out with Tim Roth a lot, even though we didn't have a lot to do in the film, but it was just great to like bond with these guys, and Madsen and Chris Penn. He was funny because he was not very nice to me during like rehearsals, filming, and I thought, what am I doing? Like, how come we, And then we were at the Reservoir Dogs did end up going to Sundance, and he came up to me and he gave me a big hug and he says, "Hey man, come here. I'm sorry. I just couldn't like you during them. My character didn't like your character, so I couldn't like you. I'm sorry, man." And then he was my best friend.
That's committed performance right there.
I loved him. Yeah.
What was it like going to Sundance? Was that the first time you've been to Sundance, or did you go before that?
Had I been there before? I think that was the first time, and I was there with In the Soup and
both were there the same year.
Both were there in the same year. So In the Soup won the Grand Jury Prize.
Yeah.
Seymour Cassell won the first ever acting award that they gave, and Reservoir Dogs was shut out. It didn't get anything. So yeah, it was.
And they were friends, right? Quentin and
they
Alexander
became really fast,
are buddies.
Fast friends, yeah.
We're buddies.
Yeah, and what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter.
Well, we'll jump to In the Soup since we're talking about it. So the same year. So you shot In the Soup before Reservoir Dogs.
Yes.
All right. So 1992, you also have, as you just mentioned, In the Soup, you play Adolfo Rollo. This is considered your first leading role.
Pretty much, yeah. Alexander Rockwell. He had made a few features before that, and this one was, I think his most personal film, like up to that point. And I felt like I was sort of playing him. I played a young filmmaker who's, trying to get his script made, and it's like this thick, and he's in love with his neighbor, and but then he falls in with this like kind of gangster con man who says he's going to produce the film, but really he's just taking Adolfo on his robberies and cons and drug deals. But it's a love story. You think it's a love story between me and my neighbor, who is brilliantly played by Jennifer Beals, but it's actually a love story between me and Joe, Seymour's character, because you see how they bond, and by the end of the movie, Seymour's character really wants to make a film. And then he's really like, make your film, kid.
It's a beautiful,
film.
inspiring movie. Black and white too, right?
Black and white. Yeah.
Classy.
We love the black and
we
white.
We do. Only the best filmmakers. ... What do you remember about the reception? It wins the grand jury prize at Sundance. Does that make a difference in an actor's career? It certainly helps a filmmaker, but does it mean anything for you?
Again, I think it, that definitely opened doors. And what was weird was that...
What a great year, though. Oh, my God, you're walking up and down the fucking hill, and people are like, Mr. Pink, Adolfo, Mr. Pink. Like, they got you on both sides.
What was weird about Sundance, In the Soup was getting so much love, and... Every screening of Reservoir Dogs, the first screening that we went to, the projector broke down during the Mexican standoff.
Oh,
I swear to God. And I think every screening that I went to, at least it seemed like half the audience walked out when Michael Madsen is doing. Yeah. It just seemed, oh, fuck this movie. And then they would just go, okay.
Here comes off, I'm on my feet. It's so weird to think that there was a moment where people like Quentin Tarantino is not for me and walk out of a room or something.
No, people were, kind of like, they said, this is the most violent film ever. And I was like, it's actually not very violent. I mean, that's pretty graphic. And there are some violent moments. But you don't actually, the way he shot it was always kind of artful. It kind of just pans off,
More horrifying.
But I think it was just the fact that it was so, these guys were so ruthless and real, that I think that's what people were sort of reacting to. Like,
and of the two films, too, In the Soup would be like welcome at Sundance because it's a movie about filmmakers making films, an audience fave as well. Whereas Reservoir Dogs, so weird to think. Like, I remember when Reservoir Dogs came out and it didn't like light up the box office.
Right.
It became a real home video hit. But Pulp Fiction, of course, more than made up for it. Somebody on Facebook, my friend Vinny pointed out, he said, I saw a theory on Facebook. He's like, just say it to Steve Buscemi. I said, I'll do that, Vinny. The theory is, it's not a theory, somebody noticed on Facebook, they were like, in Reservoir Dogs, you give all that shit about like, I don't tip. And then in Pulp Fiction, you play a waiter.
I play a waiter. I thought that was poetic justice. I don't know if that's what Quentin had in mind. But I thought, this is great. Like, I'm playing, and not only a waiter, but a Buddy Holly waiter.
Yes.
It's almost like he got away and he's hiding out. Like, he's forced to wear this bad wig and glasses, and
Mr. Pink got away.
Yeah, Mr. Pink.
I like this. I like your unified Quentin-verse theory, man.
And they had a lot of the people who played, the waiters and waitresses as well, supposed to be these celebrities, and they had, people who did that for a living, like they were these impersonators. So here I am as Buddy Holly, and one of the background people, like, she's watching my scene, and she's just like, she pulls me aside. She goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I go, "Sure." She goes, "Why Buddy Holly?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you're not very good at it." Thank you for the advice. I'll try harder.
All right, that is, you know what? That's chapter 5. Give it up for chapter 5, kids. I'm going to take us to chapter 6 before we check in on the tote board again. And chapter 6 is the Adam Sandler chapter. In 1994, you're in Airheads with him.
Yeah.
In 1995, you're in Billy Madison with him. And it begins a long-running relationship.
Yeah, Adam and I, we just took to each other, just during the rehearsals and read-throughs of Airheads. And
was he a fan? Like, was he a Reservoir Dogs fan?
Yeah. And I was a fan of his from SNL. So it was, and the fact that we were playing brothers, then we wanted to hang out and, and so we would go places and we would go out, we would work out together. We were actually, because I was
a jock.
I was.
You told us, stop fucking bragging, we know.
No, I'm playing this like metal rocker with tattoos, so I wanted my arms to be a little bit ripped.
Oh shit! So you actually put some fucking physical work into it?
So we were like working out, and
Do you hear that, Marvel? The man will work out.
And I thought, this is great. I'm working out, and I did used to work out in high school, and I had stopped for a while, but now I'm like, I should do this. I'm going to continue. As soon as we wrapped, I don't think I've lifted a weight since then, but
What is it like? Does he just call you out of the blue to be like, we're doing something, come play?
He said, that's how it is now. And when he did his first film, he said, Boosh, I need you for one day. Can you come up to Toronto? And, and I said, okay, and he's so funny because you do the scenes and then he'll just yell stuff out at you, like, and try this line and now try that, and put the lipstick on now, and then just lay back. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Has there ever been a moment where he's like, come do something, and you're like, I ain't doing that?
No, but there were at least 2 movies where I just wasn't available.
You were doing something else.
I just couldn't do it. Yeah,
it's sweet to see you as a regular all the time. Pop up, man. Speaking of regular, we'll go right to Chapter 7 then. Chapter 7, of course, is Fargo, 1996. You play Carl Showalter. You redefine the wood chipper for America by the end of the picture. At this point in your career, you don't have to audition for the Coen Brothers, I assume.
No, because I had already done 3 films with them. Right. They told me about it. I remember Joel talking to me about it, after we did Barton Fink. And I thought that was going to be their next one, but then they did Hudsucker Proxy, and I had a little part in that. Tiny, yeah. It was fun. But so I had to wait for it, but it was so worth the wait. When they sent me that script, I was just like, oh my God.
What was, when they talked about it years before, was it close to what it was? And was it called Fargo?
I don't know. I don't know if he even said what the name of it was. He just said that I would be this guy, this sort of like bumbling kidnapper guy. And I was like, yes, please. And when I read the script, it was just fantastic, and it was so much fun to do. I mean, I always tell this story. I read the script, and my character is referred to as funny looking. More than once, it's referred to as funny looking.
By the prostitutes, even. I know. More than most, even.
I know. So when I'm talking to both of them on the phone, and I say, I'm thinking, like, so what should I do to, like, be funny looking? Should I do something with, with my nose, or maybe we could, what about braces, or what, I'm saying maybe my ears could stick out. And I just hear silence. And I went, or maybe I don't do anything. Okay. Anyway.
You guys shot in Minnesota the same time we were shooting Mallrats.
Wow.
And while we were shooting Mallrats, we kept hearing like, oh, that Fargo, man, they're fucked. They can't find snow.
That's true.
There was no snow that year.
They were having one of the warmest winters.
Yes.
We had some snow, but we didn't have it for a lot of like the road stuff. And we kept having to go further north. We went into North Dakota, and we were, practically in Canada for some, and they created snow. Like when I go to the airport and I'm, like there was a little bit of snow, but they had to like make a whole bed of snow, like out in that parking lot. It was insane.
So for scenes like when they're out in the middle of fucking nowhere at night.
Well, some of that was shot in a studio when we were in the car.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like I make movies, and even I was just like, you guys must have been cold that
night. It wasn't like a studio. I mean, we were in
indoors,
hangar thing, and the doors were open. So it was a little bit cold, but we were protected. Like we were, and it was a controlled thing. But we shot, but we did shoot at night, like outside, and I loved working with Peter Stormare.
Oh, fuck, man. We go Pancake's house.
He's, it's so funny because it was a complete role reversal. Like, I'm like the chatterbox, and he's the guy who just sits there. Yeah, pancakes. And then they say, cut. And then he comes alive, and he starts telling me a story for like 10 minutes, and I can't get a word in. And then it's like, all right, rolling, action. And then it reverses. And, And then one night after wrap, we went to a diner, and I drove the wrong way down a one-way street, and I got pulled over by a cop. And I'm driving, and Peter's here, and we had just done the scene where he like shoots the cop. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like really weird. And of course, nothing happened, you know, but, and the officer, you know, she asked for my, you know, license and registration, you know, like just like in the movie. And then I kind of talked my way out of a ticket. I don't know how I did. I said, hey, I'm from, you know, I really was going to call Showalter. I didn't try and give her a 50, but I'm like, yeah, hey, I'm from New York. I really don't know, you know, it's a rental car. And
We can settle it right here in Brainerd.
Yeah, she let me go. And I always wondered, you know, and I'm sure like everybody in that area saw Fargo, you know, like when it came out. And I'm wondering, like, did she have like a weird deja vu? Like,
She's like, I dodged a fucking bullet.
Yeah.
Those guys are fucking nuts. Give it up for Chapter 7, kids. Let us bring out Mr. Ernie O'Donnell and find out how much money the good folks have been donating since we've been doing stuff. Ern, what do we got?
We've just got over $9,000.
Nice, very nice.
Top earners: Sasha Berman at 1,000. Will Wilkins at 500.
Well, Wilkins, we know him. That's
Yes.
very nice.
200 for JLG, and Damian Dusk 150.
Very, very nice.
Thank
Very
you all.
nice.
Give it
Thank
up
you
for
so
those.
Thank you very much. Keep it going, baby.
What about, you know, we keep asking about the internet. What about here in the room, folks? Not to shame anybody into anything, but anybody have anything they want to donate? We can make that happen for you. Cash? Yeah, we take all donations. Say again? $100? Ernie will come out and take it. Grab that guy's $100 before he changes his mind.
How you doing? Did I bring my wallet?
Oh, no, you
that
said a
line.
hundo.
Huh? 100 or 200?
I'll take two.
You know what?
Actually, I'll take everything you got.
100 kill.
Oh
Hey,
my God,
thanks,
you're so
buddy.
sweet. For the firefighters.
Wow,
For the
yeah.
friends of firefighters.
There you go.
What's your name, sir?
He's a great actor and you're a great director.
Oh my God.
Very
Thank you.
nice.
And you're a great liar, but hey,
You
means the
Is
world.
that the 200?
I got it, buddy. Thank you very much.
$200 right
Thank you.
there. How sweet.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see a hand go up over there.
10,000
Dollars?
from Lilu Multipop. From Lilu Multiprops.
Lilo Multiprops is donating $10,000?
Yes,
Fuck.
sir.
Oh my God.
That's how we do it at the castle, baby.
Are you sure you could do that? Didn't you just have a baby?
We did, yeah. She's actually with Nana right now. We're gonna pick her up afterwards.
And tell her that she's going to go without for a few months.
Yeah. My grandfather was a firefighter for many years, so if he was with us, he would be very happy to hear it.
That's fucking beautiful,
Thank
man.
you so much.
Give it up for Lilu
know what this means.
Multiprops.
Thank you.
$10,000. Lest we forget, my man's $200. Give it up for that as well. We got
kicked it
somebody
off.
back
You
there. Wayne's pointing to another hand, Ernie's bringing the mic back there. Kids, that's so fucking generous. That's crazy. Thank you.
She's quietly saying 150.
150, man. That's beautiful. Beautiful. All right, let's
I got
get back.
another. Hold on.
Another one.
Hold on,
Oh,
brother.
shit.
Let me grab some of this
Taps
cheddar.
are flowing, yeah.
I just wanted to tell him that Leonardo is part of Middletown Township, and Middletown Township has the Guinness records for the world's largest volunteer fire department.
That is absolutely true. Right now, folks, if you're watching at home, we are in Leonardo, New Jersey, right near the Quick Stop where we shot clerks and whatnot. Leonardo is a borough within Middletown Township. And Middletown, this is a factoid that was shared with me not too long ago. I think it was the mayor of Middletown was telling me. Middletown holds the Guinness Book World Record for largest volunteer fire department.
Wow.
Middletown Township still has a volunteer fire department. It's like they took a picture. It's like 1,000 volunteers or something.
I don't know if
like
it's
that.
that many, but it's pretty big.
It's pretty, yeah, it's massive. And,
And-
you know, I grew up in a volunteer fire department community. So like that to me was always the way. And then I found out like some people get paid for it and stuff like that. That was amazing to me.
And the Navesink Firehouse is #1, and it is the first firehouse to ever have a fireman's fair.
Is that right? The Navy Sink is the first one to do Fireman's Fair?
Yes.
Look at you. You're all sorts of information. Well done. Give it up for her. All right, let's dive. We good? Let's dive back into it, shall we?
And that was a nice donation of 100, and I think we got a couple more here.
Oh
You
my
want me
God!
to keep
All right,
going,
go
brother?
ahead. Hit him up. Hit him up. Thank you for that $100. More importantly,
got?
thank you for all that Middletown information. That juicy Middletown.
Is there any way possible? The man just handed me what'd you got there? A Visa. he want.
What's the limit, sir?
What was it? What'd you want to? 500. He wants to do 500 on the Visa.
500 done and done.
We can take care of
We'll
that
find
after,
a way to
right?
make that work.
We'll make that work after.
Very
Thank you very
generous.
much.
Thank you for that, my friend.
I think I see someone over here. My man. $100.
$100 right there.
100.
Incredibly sweet. You already overpaid for tickets to be here tonight, and adding more money to it means a lot. Thank you.
Kevin, I would just like to thank you for putting Tim and I as extras in Clerks 3.
Oh, you guys are the one. I just saw you today in the cut. You're in the movie.
Oh, thank you so much.
I watched you walk right past as Dante gets laughed at while he's on the phone.
See what happens when you make movies? We make money, brother.
That's true. Yes. They promised that,
Yes.
and it's coming true.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right, we good?
Oh,
For the
no.
moment? Oh, another
Hold on,
hand
we
comes
got
up. Nancy's like, shut the fuck up and collect the money, Kev.
Another 100, Kevin.
Another $100
Zach-
plus.
It's actually my birthday weekend. 37.
37, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you.
Happy birthday.
I got one more. Hold on.
One more. Here we go.
Snake
And I ain't
my
cutting
way.
it off. If you want to give, we're taking. Taking it hard.
What was that? 1,000. You can tell them.
1,000.
$1,000, man. Give it up for my man.
We'll get that after the show. We'll
Say-
get the 1,000 after the show.
Say again?
We'll get the 1,000 after the show.
$1,000 after the
She
show.
doesn't have 1,000 on, but you think you come here with 1,000 bucks?
We will
on?
follow you to the ATM.
Beautiful. All right. Anybody? No shame if we can move on. I see there's another hand right behind you, Aaron.
Oh.
Just give me 100, man, in honor of my father, who was a volunteer fireman. Kevin, I'm donating 100 in honor of my father, Frederick J. Hill, who was a volunteer fireman in Atlantic Highlands and passed away 20 years ago at the age of 61.
Give it up for him, man.
Great.
Timmy Hill, giving for his dad. Beautiful, beautiful soul. God, everybody knows a firefighter, don't they? So nice. Okay, we good? We are. Let's dive into it. Well done. Give it up for Ernie running around with the microphone collecting money and shit. Chapter 8, the aforementioned comic book movie Ghost World. Terry Zwigoff directs. You play Seymour. Really bittersweet, wonderful part, and very human.
Yeah.
And complex as fuck. Like, there's nothing simple about it. Based on the Dan Clowes
Dan
comic book.
Clowes comic, and Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, were just amazing together. Terry Zwigoff, who had done the documentary on Crumb, which was phenomenal. That was a really fun shoot, and I just loved watching Terry because he's sort of obsessive about what's in the frame, or like what the background people are doing. And Thora and I would be like doing a scene, and he'd like walk towards us, he'd walk past us, and he'd go up to the background. You've got to be sadder. Just be sadder as you walk by. Come on, guys, they got to be sadder. Everybody.
Like recruiting people?
Yeah, I mean, the background, he's, and then he walks past us and we're like, okay, nothing. I guess we're good. Yeah, but he's watching everything, so if one thing is off, it just, he just has to correct it.
What do you remember about the girls? Both of the, at this point in their career, the women, at this point in their career, Thora Birch had already done American Beauty.
Coming off American Beauty. And I knew Scarlett's work, but not many people did. I mean, And she was 17 when we did that film.
Get out of here.
And but she had done some independent films that I had seen before, so I was excited to work with both of them. It was just it was nice.
What is do you get recognized? You know, when one of those Marvel kids does a movie, they get recognized the world over. Do you get recognized?
I love it
Ghost World?
when women come up to me and say that they love Ghost World. Like they saw it when they were a teenager, and something about those characters, you know, Thor's character and Scarlet, that just spoke to them.
Right.
And then I'm getting the residual love from it because I think that's how they felt when they were in high school. So
how did you? It's based on a comic book, so did you look at the books at all?
Yeah. I love Dan's work. I think he's just so brilliant. He's so funny. And it was a studio film.
Yeah.
And I was not, on the list of the studio, but Terry really wanted me, and he fought for me. He really, wouldn't do it without me. So it's because of him that he fought to get me in that film.
Great director right there.
Yeah.
That's chapter 8. Give it up for chapter 8. Chapter 9 takes us to 2 movies that came out in 1998. I can't imagine they were shot around the same time, but we'll find out. Couldn't be more different from one another. Big Lebowski. And Armageddon. One with both films made with auteur filmmakers, the Coen Brothers on one side, Michael Bay on the other. Let's start with we'll do Donnie and the Big Lebowski. Did you work a lot? It seemed like when I watched that movie, I'm like, he worked maybe a week tops.
No, I was around, for not the whole shoot, but Donnie is in a lot of scenes where you don't really know he's there. Like he's waiting in the car when they go to that kid's house, and harass him. I was really lobbying to try and to
go in.
I
with
was
him?
like to Joel, should I get out of the car? And no, you just stay in the car. I'm like, damn it, I want to be in there. But I love making that film. I remember John Turturro and I met John for the first time on Barton Fink. So that's how we became.
Oh my God,
friends.
you guys go back that
And then
far.
we both ended up living in Brooklyn, and we both have kids the same age. So we would go bowling at Melody Lanes in Brooklyn, and Melody Lanes fan. And so it was great. And they got us some experts to teach us. And again, I don't think I've bowled since, but at the time I became a pretty good bowler. But again, they rehearsed, and it was their writing is just so much fun to do, because there's a rhythm to it. And and I just loved how much I annoyed John Goodman's character. And when I read the script, though, it was kind of, it took me a while to like the character, Donnie. I'm like, I don't know if I want to play this guy. He's just gets shit on the whole movie, And then at the end, when they have the fight with the nihilists, and Donnie is down, even before they have the fight, Donnie's scared, and Goodman's character says, "It's all right, Donnie. It's all right." I'm like, oh, he loves Donnie, And then when Donnie's dying, it's like, man down, It's like it's so sweet. And then, of course, the ashes, my funeral scene was just. That's my favorite scene that I'm in. People say, the Coen Brothers films, they usually say, I love you in the wood chipper scene. I'm like, thank you. And then the other one with the ashes,
I'm trying to remember, and I've seen the movie a zillion times, but you don't cross over with Goody in Barton Fink, do you?
You don't know what happens to him. You just.
But, I mean, you guys didn't have scenes together.
We didn't have any scenes.
So was that the first time then that you worked with Goodman?
I think that was, I saw John around the time of Barton Fink, and I said to him, I said, remember we did The Equalizer together? And I loved him, and so we became fast friends,
All right, the other movie that came out in 1998, again, first, before we go on, did you guys know when you were making Big Lebowski that it would be?
No.
No.
I mean, this was their follow-up to Fargo.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They won Academy Awards for Fargo, and
Yeah.
then they come out with this really weird movie.
Fucking stoner movie, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it took like at least 5 years or more. Like after a while, I knew who the Lebowski fans were. Like these like college, like it looked like these like just post college, like out of college a few years, guys would come up to me and go, "Hey man," and I would go, "The Big Lebowski." Yeah, how'd you know? How'd you? Because they watch it so many times, and then as the years go by, it's just become like bigger and bigger.
It's for me. It was a way homer. I went to see it while we were making Dogma in 1998 in Pittsburgh, and so I went to see it. And this is gonna sound so name droppy, but just this is who I went to see it with: me, Scott Mosier, my producer, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Chris Rock. So Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, I guess, just won the Oscar. Wow. So like they were riding high and stuff. Chris Rock couldn't have been bigger than he was at that point, and we were all massive Fargo fans. So we were like, "Fuck it, hey man, the Lebowski." And when the movie ended, like I'm sure he's come to love it. I did come to love it. My second viewing, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what I didn't see." Right. But the very first viewing, we were all gobsmacked that it wasn't fucking Fargo. Right. And I will never forget, man. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. It was so funny to me. Chris Rock gets up in the middle of the movie theater as soon as the credits rolls, and he goes, "Bullshit!" And the whole fucking crowd turns around because like, that sounds like Chris Rock. And it was Chris Rock. And then we had to get out of the fucking theater fast.
What is Chris Rock on now?
Fargo! Holy shit! It would have been weirder if he was on the Big Lebowski.
That's true. Yeah, my joke totally, that was, if he had dissed Fargo, that would have worked. Can you edit any of this?
No, live.
Damn it.
Live, but somebody donate for that. Go to the link in the bio in the description and donate. Friends and Firefighters, folks, that's who we're here for tonight. Speaking of heroes, you played one named Rockhound in Armageddon. You saved our world.
That's right.
Because you knew how to drill.
Don't forget, we're all heroes.
Ben Affleck on the commentary track. I mean, it's very funny, but he would say it in real life too before the commentary track. He's like, you know, the fucking world's ending. There's an asteroid coming our way. Do we send astronauts? No, send oil drillers. He's like, and that pretty much sums up a Michael Bay film. What do you remember about shooting the Michael Bay film?
Do you know, I almost didn't do that film because before that film, I was filming Stanley Tucci's movie, The Imposters.
Yeah.
And the dates were conflicting. And I remember at the time I was like a little upset, you know, because I felt like, wait a minute, you're not taking into account that I'm doing Stanley's movie first, you know, and I'm doing Stanley's movie. And
it's a big studio movie, Disney movie. They don't give a fuck.
And I didn't, but somehow the dates worked out, and I got to do both films. So that was amazing that I was even in it. And it was culture shock going from like
the Imposters to
the
that.
Imposters, you know, this like tight knit group, and we're shooting in like one location basically, and then to go on the set of a Michael Bay film. But what I love that Michael and Jerry Bruckheimer, what they do is they hire good actors. I mean, you know, they do. It's like I love the actors that I was working with. You know, that was on Con Air, the same thing. And so to do like an action commercial film, and you know,
be surrounded by like real actors.
Yeah. So you really had to bring your best game, and you know, Michael Bay is kind of like an independent filmmaker with just every tool in the toolbox and every toy that he could play with. But he really likes to sort of, you know, like make things up as he goes along, and he likes us to improvise. And his energy is just, you know, it's like he is like his movies, you know, like he is that guy.
Expensive.
So, yes.
Somebody told me a story recently. They were working on something he was working on, and I guess it was a Transformers thing, because he was like, they're outside in some major city, and he's like, get everyone out of the way. I have to envision the Transformers. So he wanted everyone away so he could imagine the big giant robots. I was like, man, that guy's spoiled. Yeah. That's chapter 9. Give it up for chapter 9, kids. 3 chapters left, and chapter 10 takes us to a personal favorite of mine, not just because I love the movie, but also because it reminds me of my kid when she was a kid. Monsters, Inc. You played Randall Boggs,
yes,
man.
yes.
You went Pixar. What was that like?
I love that. The hardest thing about, and I've done a lot of voiceover work, since then.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest thing about it is that you're alone in the studio, and
you're not reading with the people
you're
who
not.
play the
Yeah.
other part.
So on Monsters Inc., they did let Billy Crystal and John Goodman do their. I think they did a lot of their stuff together because
Right.
so much of it is,
Interplay.
Yeah. But me, I just came in and I would, you do your lines, and then they animate and they bring some stuff to you, and then you revise it. But there was one part. So Randall has an assistant in the film, and I don't remember the character's name, but it's voiced by Frank Oz. So those of you who know, Frank Oz is like the king of voiceover, and he's
Director
a brilliant
as well.
director.
Yeah.
He was telling me stories about directing Marlon Brando and, Robert De Niro, and he's telling me these stories. And then we go into the studio and he'd be like trying to find a voice going, it's so hard for him to find original voice. He would like try it and he'd go, sorry, that was Fozzie Bear. Sorry. Let me try again. And and then they had us improvise a scene where I'm yelling at him. And that was so surreal. I'm like, I can't believe I'm here yelling at Frank Oz. Like,
Yeah, essentially yelling at Yoda.
I know, yeah.
What a weird job to put you in a room with a cat that legendary as well.
Yeah.
What is the process on that? Do you go in once, record it, and then 2 years later you see the movie, or do you have to go in multiple times?
Keep going in. You keep going in. It's at least like 5 or 6 times.
And is that because they break the script down, or they
Because
rewrite?
well, first they need your voice, then they start to animate, and then as things change, then you're just constantly revising to what now they know what it's going to look like and how fast you should say this line, or they rewrite something and you have to just redo a scene.
And so it's yet another movie with John Goodman in which you didn't get to work with John Goodman.
That's true. Yes.
That's chapter 10. Give it up for chapter 10, kids. Ernie! Let's get a quick tally before we go on to 11 and 12. Smog Castle Keeper Ernie O'Donnell coming here with a microphone and some figures. What do you got?
With the audience donations and Michael W. at 2,000 online.
$2,000 from Michael W.
Yep.
Give it up for Michael W. and his $2,000.
We have we're creeping up on 25,000.
Nice. Well done, kids.
Very close. Very close. Looking good. Thank you very much.
And don't forget, man, that's live, but this thing will live online and people could donate long after this event is over. Of course, we'd appreciate that. The link is in the description below, kids. Give to the Friends of Firefighters Fund. Help us rescue those who rescue us. Okay, chapter 11 takes us to The Sopranos. Obviously, a close personal fave of me and most of the locals, of course. But before we talk about you playing Tony Blundetto, you'd been on the set as a director prior to that.
Yeah, I had directed at least 2 episodes by then. The first one being the Pine Barrens.
One of the greatest fucking episodes. Not only one of the greatest episodes of The Sopranos ever, one of the greatest hours of television, particularly if you're from New Jersey, of all time.
Yes. Well, that's Terry Winter wrote the script. David Chase, of course, he had a hand in every script that was written. And between the two of them, it's just, this was just an amazing. And Tim Van Patten, who is a director on the show, and he ended up doing a lot of most of Boardwalk Empire. He came up with the story, and it was supposed to be like a bottle episode. Like these are episodes that are just supposed to stand alone and not cost very much, And
that's true. The bottle episode is meant to be inexpensive.
Yeah. And so he came up, well, how about this idea where, they get lost in the woods, and it just like ballooned into this like almost like this epic. They used to shoot their episodes in like 9-10 days. If they went 11, we had to go 14 days. It became that big of an episode. But I think it was worth it. I think,
Didn't you get nominated, or did you win?
I got Didn't win, but I was nominated for a DGA award. Yeah.
For directing.
Yeah.
I've never gotten one of those,
Yeah.
so well fucking done, actor. So you direct for him a bunch, and do they tell you at that point, one day you're going to act for us?
No. For some reason, like David Chase didn't think that I would actually like do the show, and I at that time, I don't think they had anything for me. But then when they came up with these 4 characters who were getting out of prison and, coming back into the family, I get, Sheila Jaffe and Georgianne Walken, who were the casting directors, they cast In the Soup, Alex Rockwell's film.
Oh my God.
That's how I knew them.
Right.
And then they cast Trees Lounge, the first film that I directed.
That you directed, yeah.
David Chase was a fan of Trees Lounge and hired Sheila and Georgianne. And then I think it was Sheila, that said to David, "What about Steve?" And he's like, "Yeah, you think he'd do it? Well, let's ask him," And I was like, "Yes, I'll do it, of course." I loved the show, and it was
You're like another opportunity to get my guns out,
Yeah.
pump up my arms, like the jock I am at heart.
And then they made me wear that like oversized jacket. I'm like, come on, I want to show my arms. But I loved it. But my first day of working, I was so scared because it's bad. It was like my nerves were frayed enough just directing these people. After watching, because I didn't direct until late into the 3rd season. So it was like you watch the show and I was such a fan. And then to step into this world that you know so well and love, it's surreal and it's very intimidating.
What was Gandolfini like?
He was a sweetheart, but he can't help but be intimidating. He can't help, like if he looks at you, you just kind of involuntarily shake. And he's like, "Hey, how are you, Stan?" I'm good, Jimmy. All right, okay. But he was just so damn good at that character that it was hard not to see him that way in real life. And he was, he was the sweetest guy. He was very generous. He definitely had, his issues. It was not easy for him to play that part. He took it to heart, and he had to go to some really dark places, and I think it had a toll on him because it was, there were things that he was asked to do that I think was, you could see him resisting. And then when he did it, he fucking gave it his all, and it was like chilling, But he had to go to a very dark place to achieve that.
When they bring you on to something like that, now they know you from working with you as a director and whatnot, but did they tell you in the beginning, like, you're probably going to get fucking whacked?
Well, everybody knows that going in, right? But they hired me for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, they hired me for 2 seasons.
Series regular.
And it was towards the end, of the 5th season as we were shooting it. The joke on set was you don't ever want to get a phone call from David Chase. That means you're dead. And of course, I got the phone call, like from David, like on my voicemail. "Hey, Steve, can you give me a call?" I'm like, damn it. I go, but, let's just, maybe it's something else. I call him back. He says, "You free for lunch tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Now I got to wait a whole night. And that night I'm like, I shouldn't be so negative. Maybe he wants to talk to me about a different project. I'm on for 2 seasons. First thing I go meet him for lunch. "I'm sorry, there's just no way out of it. We got to kill you." "All right, let's have lunch." But it was understandable that this character, like, kind of, he just had to go. And I really was crushed. I mean, I sort of left, practically, and I let David see it, but I was like practically in tears, like, because I loved it so much. I was like, oh, damn it.
And this is coming from a guy who's, like, at this point in his career, played hundreds of roles and still found, like, a home. Do you think it's because it was episodic? Like, you do a lot of movies where it's just like, you got a month to live in these skin and then dump it. And
that was the first kind of like, I had done a lot of TV, stuff before that, but just like these guest starring stuff. And so I had never played a recurring role before. And so, yeah, of course you just get close to everybody and you get close to the character and, and I wanted to see him. I felt bad, I wanted to see him succeed. It was so sad when
it was heartbreaking when he started beating up the dude and shit. You're like, oh, you're so close.
I know. Yeah.
All right, give it up for 11, chapter 11. That's The Sopranos. Chapter 12, our final chapter, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to Boardwalk Empire. He played Nucky Thompson. A return to working with Mr. Martin Scorsese. How did this come about?
Well, because it was Terry Winter, right? So he was the writer, the showrunner on Boardwalk, and he brought it to
Sopranos
HBO.
Land, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. So Terry Winters was, wrote The Pine Barrens and, so many other great scripts on that show. And so when he was doing Boardwalk Empire, they I don't know how they got Scorsese to do the pilot, but that was like, I say I don't know how because it was a fucking great script. That's how. And so they had Marty, they had Terry, and Terry still says I don't know who thought of it first, me or Marty, but we both agreed that it should be you. And I'm sure there was a list of people, and I know that HBO was kind of like, really? That's yeah. Who else? We want Steve. And I always tell the story, but like when Terry called me to tell me that I had the part, I was trying to transition into directing. I was directing an episode of Nurse Jackie, and I was in this, we were scouting. I'm on the scout van, and I'm like, not that I thought that I was going to give up acting, but I just thought maybe I'm getting to an age where the roles are kind of the same, and maybe I should just
This makes more sense. You've got so much experience on everybody else's set. You aggregate it into your own style.
I've been to the best film school in history, right?
No doubt. You think about it.
Yeah.
The dude is sat behind the greatest in terms of people who make films. So it stands to reason you would direct.
So I thought, all right, and then Terry calls me and he says that he's offering me the role, and I still couldn't hear it. I said, thank you, Terry, thank you. Look, I know you're still looking at other actors, but thank you for even, he said, Steve, did you hear me? I said, you have the part. It was just amazing. I was just so, because I read the pilot, and I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this. If I don't get it, I'm gonna, I didn't even want to think about it. Like, I would rather not even be in the running and then lose it,
Right.
But the fact that I was being considered was just, I hadn't felt that nervous since I wanted to play the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz in my 4th grade play. I'm serious. Like, that was the only other time where I felt like, I gotta get that part. What do I gotta do? And when I got it, I was like, I did it. I'm the lion.
What was it, 4 seasons of the show?
Boardwalk was like 4.5. Like the last season was not a full season, but they let us finish it, which was nice.
Where'd you guys shoot?
We shot at the only time we set foot in Jersey was in the opening credits.
Is that it?
So we shot at Steiner Studio. They, built most of the interiors there, like Nucky's office. They built a boardwalk set in Brooklyn, like this outdoor set. And then we shot in every borough for it, like every borough like we would shoot in the Bronx for Ireland. I can't, and they would just like make up these places. And Prospect Park was Havana, at the picnic house. It was like, they just were so ingenious. But it was all in New York.
And this is you got to spend more time with Martin Scorsese during the process.
So that pilot was like 30 days to shoot, and that was unheard of.
It's a fucking feature right there.
Yeah, and and everybody just loved him. Like we would always love it if there was like a technical thing that went wrong and we had to wait. And then Marty would come and sit at our table and we would just pepper him with questions because he loves talking about, his films and art and music.
He's not precious about it. Like,
no, you could ask him anything. And the greatest time I ever had on a set anywhere was there was, do you remember Robert Altman did this show back in the 80s about a politician. Now I'm going to blank.
Tanner 88?
Tanner 88. And then like 20 years later, he did like this like TV series for IFC where Tanner's daughter, played by Cynthia Nixon. She's a filmmaker, and so they follow her. And he was doing a scene at Elaine's, and he wanted me and Scorsese just to be extras, like in the background, sitting at a table. And the main scene was happening with Cynthia and and everybody else at a big table, and it's just Marty and me, like we hang out together and we go to Elaine's. And we sat there, and Marty just kept telling me story after story about Brando and De Niro. I always hear the Brando and De Niro stories, and every once in a while, Robert Altman would come up to us and go, "Try not to be so mediocre on that take," and then he'd like walk away. And then in the middle of the scene, we get up and we meet Mario Cuomo, who's at another table, and I was so nervous I knocked over a bottle of wine, and it's in the scene, and a waiter comes and they cleaned it up, and that was my favorite day on set, I think, ever. Being with Scorsese and Altman.
Did they? I've seen two massive greats. Did they mic you guys, even though your background?
Yeah.
He was famous for that. Altman would put
yeah.
mics on everybody, even if they were background people.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts, man. Oh my God, you have worked with like every director except me. It feels like at this point.
And I was supposed to.
Good God.
He offered me a part in Clerks 3, and I just directed a movie. Here's the difference between you and me. You're in pre-production.
Success. Fucking boatloads of success.
We're both in pre-productions for movies we're about to direct, and you were like the most relaxed guy ever.
Stoner.
You could always, you can get to him immediately, like when we're putting together this event, and you were so, and...
Hey, it's not a real movie, it's a Kevin Smith movie, man.
And me, I'm like, okay, no, I can't do that day because I think I have a Zoom meeting that day, so I can't.
You were.
Then I'm going to go to LA, and then when I come back, I don't know if I have time.
You were treating the job seriously.
Yeah.
Like
No,
it was nice to see a director who's like, giving it the value that it had. Me, I'm just like, it'll be fine. We'll make it up. Jay will be there, and stuff like that. That was chapter 12. Give it up for chapter 12. Like, oh, you know what? That's not chapter 12. We're going to jump back into chapter 12 because tragically last week, I believe it was, we lost Michael K. Williams, who of course played Chalky White in the show. And you worked with Michael a bunch.
I loved Michael. His commitment to any role that he played was just phenomenal. And it did not come easy to him. I just remember we'd be doing these scenes and we'd, rehearse them, and he'd be struggling with the lines, and he, wouldn't quite find it. And you'd think, I don't know, and then he just methodically would work and work and work. And by the end of it, I'm just like blown away. I'm in a scene with an actor and I'm kind of like having an out of body experience watching him, and and it's so sad. When his character was killed, and sorry for any spoiler alerts, but his character gets killed on Boardwalk Empire, I think I've cried the hardest I've ever cried, seeing...
For the character or for the fact that you're like, oh man, there he goes?
Because he and the character to me became one. Like Chalky died, but it was like Michael dying then. And it like destroyed me. And so when he passed away last week, I had this weird feeling like, why do I feel like I've grieved for him already? And that's what it was.
Came from there.
It was so weird. He was just, just a phenomenal actor and a phenomenal guy and a sweetheart.
He was.
Kind sweetheart.
He came to my house one day and did a podcast one morning, as a matter of fact. And he was such a sweet guy, so good-natured and whatnot. Absolutely lovely. It was very sad to read that news last week because not only did we lose a lovely guy, we lost an amazing actor.
Oh, my God, yeah.
A pillar of HBO, if you look at it. The Wire.
Lovecraft Country.
And Lovecraft Country just recently.
I was you know how we do. You see your buddy do great work. I gotta call him. I gotta send him an email, and then you just forget.
Miss the opportunity.
Man, I never got a chance to tell him.
It is don't carry that cross, man. You're a good guy.
He knows anyway. But it's just I just wish I would have talked to him. Because it had been a few years since we hung out.
That's beautiful. That is chapter 12. Give it up for chapter 12, kids. All 12 chapters of a career done in 2 hours. Let's stop for a moment and see how we're doing with our totals. Ern, what do you got for us? What are the Friends of Firefighters looking at?
Well, after adding up all the lovely donations from the audience and on the internet and the sales from tonight's tickets, we were at $36,000.
36,000. So close. So close to 37.
37's close, buddy.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Very nice. Thank you, Ernie. Okay. We obviously didn't do every damn thing you've ever done because you've done so much. We touched on you directing the Pine Barrens, and we mentioned Trees Lounge. How do you like directing? You talked about how you were kind of like, I'm going to lean toward this, and then more acting happened.
Yeah, so that's what happens. I like directing, but I don't get to do it that much. So every time I do it, it's like I get that, I get so anxious. And I feel like if I did it more, then I would sort of, become more like you and be more like relaxed about it. And
bad at it?
So, no.
It takes a career to be practiced and bad at your job. No, I do like the way you do it, man. It reminds me like, oh shit, I should take this seriously.
Oh, come on. I have to say when Clerks came out, it was.
Do tell, Steve Buscemi.
Because I remember also reading at the time you talked about Jarmusch and you talked about Stranger Than Paradise.
Yeah.
And I went, so this is what happens here. So Jim, he grew up in Cincinnati and came to New York. He was influenced by Cassavetes and the New
Eric
Wave.
Romer.
Yeah. And now he makes his film his way and inspires a kid from New Jersey, and you make your film a black and white film, and you make it your way. And
I made it his way, a series of one long takes.
I know, but yes, but it's your film. You made it your own, and I love that you gave it up. You said, yeah, you were influenced. You were like, okay, it inspired you. You went, he did that. I think I can do that. Like you saw, because it was such a personal film to him. I think that's that really inspired you, and you did it in your first film, man. You were like on your way. It was such a beautiful.
It was all downhill after that, Steve. But yeah, right out the gate, it was strong. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned something about art inspires art. I did see Jarmusch's stuff, and that made me go like, maybe I could do this sort of thing. How many people have you met across your lifetime who are acting because of you? Because you look like us. Unlike what the Coen Brothers said, you don't look funny looking. You look like us. You look like the audience. You look normal. Most people they put up on the screen are like impossibly gorgeous and fucking cut and all that stuff. But you look like a normal person. So I can see, I've had a career where people are like, because you're normal and you made a movie, that made me think I could do a thing or try a thing. Have you encountered a lot of that?
You mean of actors?
Yeah, people who are like, I'm doing this because I saw you do it. You specifically.
I guess. I mean, I've met a lot of young I've met a lot of young actors, and it's always nice to hear, that they're inspired or influenced. For me, the guy was John Casale. This was a guy who I first saw in The Godfather, and then I see him in Dog Day Afternoon, and it blew me away because it took me a while to realize
that it was the same guy.
It was the same guy. Al Pacino, like he's the star, and he's like, oh, he's doing a different role, and that's so cool. But that guy's really good too. Oh, he was Federico in The Godfather. It just kind of blew me away and sort of opened my eyes to a whole, like what it meant to be a character actor. And that was a huge loss, when he died. I would love to, imagine what he would have been doing, in all these years. But Yeah. So him like that for me was like, I think I can do that.
Who'd you do it for? Have you ever met somebody who was like, I saw you do a thing and now I can do that thing?
That I've
That
met?
you've inspired. Yeah. Who's
that I've inspired. I don't know. I don't know.
I got to imagine a guy like you, like, here's a memory. If there's a Mount Rushmore of American actors, like, you're on it. So I assume that, like, most people would be like, oh my God, I'm doing this because of you.
There might be. I don't know. You're embarrassing me now. Cut it out. Cut it out.
Fair enough. Let me ask you this to close up the evening. And before we close up, ladies and gentlemen, have you had a good time so far? If you've enjoyed this amazing walk down memory lane, don't forget who we're doing it for. It's the Friends of Firefighters. If you're watching online, there's a link in the description below. If you're watching long after this event has taken place, 5-10 years after this, when we're dealing with COVID-28, don't forget, take care of that, and then give to the Friends of Firefighters, folks. Let's close up by asking this. You've had this massive, not just career, but life, but we'll stick to career. And you've done so much, and it's unfair to be like, single out the one thing, but like, if you have to, if there's a fucking heaven and they're like, all right, we're only letting you in based on what you think your fucking best performance was.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's right. It's a vicious heaven. It's just like Earth. It's real judgy and shit. What's the one that gets you into heaven, into film heaven?
I mean, I did play God in the first season of Miracle Workers. And I mean, that might get me in if he doesn't watch it, if God doesn't watch it,
Right.
and see what I did.
Might be like,
I would
aren't
just
you
say,
the
"Hey,
guy
I
that did
played
me?"
God, you inspired me. Maybe he would, just, all right, you're in. Okay, you can't let me out now, I'm in.
Nobody's letting you out, man. Once you got in, you were in for life and stuff. It's been amazing watching your career. I've grown up watching your career, and not like I was a boy. I'm 51. How old are you?
I'm 63.
Okay, so you got me by like a decade and stuff. But I, in the 80s, I got to see stuff that you were doing that fed me. And when I got to the 90s, I did my thing.
Right.
It's amazing to share stage space with a guy whose work you've absolutely adored over the years. But it's amazing, not just the work that you've done in film, but the work you're doing with Friends of Firefighters. As Nancy mentioned earlier in the evening, you were a firefighter, and you were there on September 11th. Tomorrow is the 20th anniversary. We've had a good time tonight. We've had laughs and whatnot. This may be a bit more sober, but what do you remember about the day?
Well, so I used to work at Engine 55 in Little Italy in the early 80s for 4 years. I wasn't there on September 11th. I went the next day, on the 12th, and had my turnout coat and my helmet and just took the subway to Delancey Street, made my way to the firehouse. Another firefighter was coming back, and he gave me the update. Because I couldn't get any information. And so 5 members of Engine 55 were missing, and of course died. And he drove me in, and already it was, one of the guys I had worked with, Faust Apostle, and so he was a good friend. And as I was walking around there, I would run into other firefighters that I knew, and they would tell me about other guys. I found my old company. They let me work with them that day, and then they invited me back the next day and the next day, and I ended up going in with them for almost a week, and just, being on the bucket line and, just helping to remove the rubble. And, but it was, an experience that I will never forget. I hope that I never have to experience it again because of, the magnitude of the tragedy that it was. But the love and the humanity that I witnessed my days there on the pile just was extraordinary. It was love in action. Somebody told me that the other day, and I went, that's exactly what it was. In the face of this incredible evil, there was so much love there people wanting to desperately to find survivors. Because in the beginning it was a rescue mission, and it was it's so tragic that that there were no survivors after the first day, and just to witness all of those groups coming together, the fire department, the cops, transit, steel workers, construction, sanitation, Red Cross, was just, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just, I felt good while I was there. And sometimes I even felt guilty about how good I felt, because you could see like this destruction, and that there are thousands of people who have died, but because I was privileged enough to have access and I was able to do something, it felt good, and it felt good to be connected with my old company. And there are a lot of new guys now, and they accepted me in, and that was, I loved that. And now I'm friends with them. And it wasn't until I stopped going that I experienced what I think everybody was experienced, like just this, what the fuck happened? Like this fear and anxiety and anger and.
What called you to the pile? What, just once a firefighter, always a firefighter?
Yeah, when I heard the numbers of, the first number that I heard of the missing, it was like about 100. This was like maybe in the late afternoon on September 11th. They were estimating that it was 100. It ended up, being 343. It was just, you just couldn't imagine it. There have been fatalities before, on the fire department, if one dies, it's like, it's huge. When like 6 die, it's like, oh my God, this was like, you just couldn't imagine the number. And I just wanted to be there. And this is something I say all the time. I wanted to help, like so many New Yorkers wanted to help. And, but I'm the one that got the help. I felt like it did me, it did my heart so good to just be there and to witness that and be a part of that experience. That's what got me through it, really.
Give it up for Steve, man. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Let us check one last time, ladies and gentlemen, with our final tally before we get out of here for this evening. Ernie O'Donnell, come out and tell us if we've done any bit better.
So in this short time, we have reached your magic number.
$37,000?
We got over to 37,000.
37. Well done, kids. Very on brand.
Very nice. Works well. Thank you all. Great stuff, guys. Great stuff.
Awesome. The folks, have you had a good time? If you did, it's because we got to sit here and listen to a living legend, man. I know the movie says differently, but please never shut the fuck up, Donnie. Everyone give it up for Steve Buscemi.
Thank you, Kevin. How about this guy is amazing. He did this for us last year with the Sopranos event. If like you saw that, he moderated that. He raised a lot of money for Friends of Firefighters. He was asked, he just did it immediately. He became fast friends with Nancy. Nancy's been doing this, since the beginning. And I just want to acknowledge everybody who works at Friends of Firefighters, the staff, the counselors, the volunteers, because it's important to keep this going. For a lot of the firefighters and first responders, 9/11 never stopped. They're experiencing, like I said before, the cancers. This being the 20th year is a big trigger. A lot of the members are just not even, they just can't even deal with it. So mental health is as important as any other, health. We owe it to them. We owe it to them to give them support, because they are there for us in a heartbeat. They won't even think twice about it. So whatever you can do and everything you have done, we really appreciate it. And I appreciate this guy right here. I think he's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the good folks, friends of firefighters. Thank you to everybody who donated tonight. Thank you to all the future donors who are going to watch this tomorrow, next week, a month from now. Don't be shy. That money spends all the time and is always very needed for a great cause. From Smod Castle here in Leonardo, New Jersey, thank you for being with us here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Go give somebody some love tonight. Give somebody a hug. Good night, everybody.